You know somebody's sweating somewhere right now. I've never seen anything like this. Arc Raiders, one of the most popular and successful live service games that we saw released in 2025, has somehow, against all odds, retained 91% of its audience over 60 days. 91%. Do you have any idea how absurd that is? I'm sure some of you guys are sitting there like, it's not that big of a deal. There hasn't been a single game in the past 5 years that has been able to achieve that. Not a single one. At least not new releases. Live service has just been a hellscape. All these guys have been coming in to cash their checks, and while some of these guys have found success, most of them not so much. And the one constant that we have seen throughout this entire saga of all these guys coming out with these live service games is that, well, these audiences fall off, especially after the first couple of weeks, especially after the first month, and none of these guys have really been able to capture any of their peak. Yet Arc Raiders has, and it has for one very simple reason. Family. It usually goes at the end of the video. Community is the term that I'm looking for here. For all the money that these suits have been spending on research, on marketing, on their different live service things that they want to do, all the monetization and all that good stuff, all these guys have completely forgotten the one key ingredient, the most important thing about multiplayer games. People playing together. These guys have just been lost in the sauce of monetization and trying to perfect their games through those channels that they have just completely lost sight of all of this. And I don't think that these guys have a shot at trying to compete with this game because they simply just don't understand it. So today what I want to do is I want to talk about the continued success of Arc Raiders. I want to talk about how the least likely success of 2025 has now become one of the greatest successes of 2025 and now also probably going to be 2026. Why people are still playing this game, what people can learn from it, and why I think they never will. I need you guys to understand just how absurd this is. Arc Raiders released on October 30th. It hit its all-time peak of over 481,000 concurrent players on Steam over 2 weeks later on November 16th. And since then, for over 60 days, it has barely dipped. Even through the holidays, the game only briefly slipped under 300,000 players before climbing right back up to over 460,000, consistently holding over 90% of its audience from its peak. Oh, and Embark just now reported on January 4th that the game has broke its all-time concurrent player record across all platforms with 3.2 million daily active users, while also breaking over 12 million copies sold. You absolutely love to see it. Now let's compare that to the launch of other live service games. In that same time frame, Battlefield 6 lost more than 80% of its players, declining steadily almost immediately after launch. Marvel Rivals did the exact same thing, shedding almost half of its concurrent player base in under a month. Helldivers 2 followed that exact same arc, a strong peak and then a steady, predictable decline. And I guess I should mention Call of Duty here, but honestly, Call of Duty Black Ops 7 landed with such a whimper that it almost doesn't even feel fair to bring it up. Around 100,000 concurrent players on Steam at launch, despite that launcher also housing Warzone and their entire back catalog. And within weeks, that game had already dropped by 50,000 concurrent players. And at this point, you know what? Bringing them up just feels less like analysis and a lot more like me just throwing a spike strip in front of a short bus. There hasn't been a single live service game that has launched in the past 2 years, honestly probably closer to 5, that has been able to maintain this kind of momentum for this long. The pattern has always been the same, a huge launch and then a sharp drop off in the first month and then another drop after that, and the game just finds its smaller core audience or it just finds the door on the way out. Now, I'm not saying that Arc Raiders is never going to level off. It probably will to some degree, but what I am saying is that no other game has sustained for this long, and it's not unreasonable to think that it's not going to keep going, because the only games that have been able to maintain this kind of static momentum are the absolute pillars of this industry: Fortnite, Counter-Strike, Grand Theft Auto, etc. I'm not saying that Arc Raiders is going to reach those heights. I'm saying that it's going down the same road, and right now, this game is holding on to people in a way that we simply haven't seen for a really long time. So what the hell is going on? Well, honestly, a lot more than usual. A lot of it's unique, and a lot of it's very unique specifically to Arc Raiders. It obviously helps that this year delivered one of the weakest entries that we've ever seen in the Call of Duty franchise, a franchise that normally sells tens of millions of copies. It's going to be lucky to clear 10 million this time around, and Battlefield 6 technically beat out Call of Duty out of the gate. It did so while also desperately trying to be Call of Duty, and that result ends up being a game that has stumbled out of the door with convoluted menus, too few maps, absurdly long and borderline unachievable weapon progression, no static servers, and a whole pile of other issues. Arc Raiders just didn't have any of those problems. It was just a better game out of the box. It's a stark contrast to its competition. It launched more refined. It had a clearer and more original identity. It felt like a new game because it actually was a new game. It played better. It had content waiting in the wings. And most importantly, it cost half as much. Now, I've been away for a bit, so I haven't really been able to fully dig into this yet. I'll probably do that in another video, but price is killing games right now. The short version is the median price of the best-selling games on Steam has cratered over the past 2 years. Publishers keep insisting that prices have to go up while players have been quietly spending less, not just buying less games, but just paying less per game. And AAA has been asking for more while delivering less, and better competition has been charging less, which is why this median price has now gone down almost 20% with no signs of slowing down. If anything, it's accelerating. So when a game like Arc Raiders shows up as a new IP, fresh, distinct, genuinely accessible, more fun than anything else that's in the space, and only asks for $40, the question becomes unavoidable for a lot of players today. Why the hell would you want to buy a game from Electronic Arts or Activision for $70 when you can get something far better for $40? This has just been so satisfying to watch. These companies have spent years running their reputations into the dirt. Companies that didn't just lose trust, they have cultivated an audience that actively prays for their failure. And then we have Arc Raiders that just walks in and just starts eating this market alive. Is it really that hard to understand why? Do these guys even have competition anymore? Because at least from where I'm standing, the games industry is basically open season. Like, am I the only one that's over here that just can't get over how repetitive and samey everything in this industry has become? It's just the same games over and over again with the same name, and sometimes maybe with a new one, but very rarely do we ever actually see anything new. It's robbed this industry of mystery, of excitement. Everything is just so damn predictable because these publishers have treated their games, their franchises, and most importantly, their customers like garbage, to the point that now all it takes to stand out is just put in a little effort and a fair price. That's it. I mean, look at how brain dead this cycle has become. EA just watched what happened with Call of Duty Black Ops 7. They saw the backlash. They saw the reaction to the phoned-in AI-generated microtransactions. They saw their player numbers crater, and then they turn around and do the exact same thing. This is just so embarrassing to me. I think that's a huge reason why Battlefield 6 has fallen off so hard. Once the honeymoon phase ended, at least for a lot of players, and myself included, most of us just woke up to the same realization. This is just new boss, same as the old boss. What do we expect? It's EA. It's in the name. Another publisher that doesn't listen, that takes its own audience for granted and barely seems to understand its own games anymore, let alone the genre that it's supposed to be leading. I mean, I guarantee that these guys have no clue as to why Arc Raiders is so accessible or so inescapable at this point. You are seeing this game everywhere right now. It's dominating Twitch. It's all over social media. There's tons of clips. It's all over YouTube. It's in comment sections. It's launching content creator careers overnight. Peanut is on an absolute tear right now, and that's not by accident. It's because this game refuses to feel the same twice. Every single player plays differently. Every lobby has its own rhythm. Every raid has its own outcome, its own story. It makes Arc Raiders so ridiculously watchable. And I don't even normally watch people play games, and that's all I've been doing lately. I've been watching a lot of Summit and Peanut too, and it's for one simple reason. You never know what's going to happen next. Not because of some scripted spectacle that they put into the game, but because of people, the conversations, the unexpected alliances, the betrayals, the dumb jokes, the moments that were not designed, were not optimized, and definitely were not monetized. This is multiplayer games returning to being social and feeling like a community. I talked about this back when Helldivers 2 first blew up. That game has definitely struggled with its direction since then, but it accidentally exposed something that I think this industry just doesn't seem to see, or maybe they just don't understand. Players are just not looking to be as competitive anymore. They're looking to cooperate. They want to be social. They want to feel like they're a part of something bigger than themselves. We've spent years now drowning in hyper-competitive design. Team versus team, you versus everyone, games built around you playing as an individual instead of belonging to a group, and I just think that players are exhausted of it. I know that I am. Games are just less social than they used to be. Society is more isolated than it's ever been. Lockdowns accelerated it. AI is now accelerating it even further, and none of that is natural. It cuts against how we are wired as people. So watching players push back right now, not just in games, but everywhere, I think that makes a lot of sense. I think people want community. I think that's why a game like this is popping off right now. They want meaning. They want to belong to something, and well, Arc Raiders represents that. Helldivers 2 definitely tapped into that briefly. They had the shared war, the memes, the factions, bot divers, bug divers, the collective narrative, and instead of learning from that, the industry is just moved on. They just completely ignored it. Not because the signal wasn't there, but just because, I don't know, people just didn't understand it. And that's just the difference with Arc Raiders. This game was built from the ground up to be social. PvP exists in the game, but it's optional. The world gives you context. You are survivors, remnants, people that are trying to claw back the surface of the earth. You meet strangers, you make friends, you form alliances, you betray them, you gather across the map and play instruments, you goof around, you tell stories that no designer could have ever planned for. These players are not being herded like cattle like we see in almost every other game. They are being given space. And that's why Arc Raiders didn't just succeed. I think this game is reminding people what multiplayer games used to feel like. It's like this industry just collectively forgot that the minute it went mainstream was with Halo 2. That game was so insanely social. It was the LAN parties, it was the split screen. Yes, the game had online multiplayer, but people were playing that game together. Even if you were fighting other teams, you were still playing that game together. I mean, some of the lobbies could get a little bit toxic, but still, there was a culture, there was a personality there that you just don't really see that in games anymore. And I think that's the soul of online multiplayer. I think it's the soul of multiplayer games. I think it's the soul of just games in general. And I think that we tapped back into that a little bit briefly with Helldivers 2, and now we're seeing that come back yet again with Arc Raiders. And I think that says something about where players are at right now. These competitive multiplayer games are miserable to exist inside, partly because of streaming, because I definitely think that, you know, competitive multiplayer games, people are trying to make careers out of playing these games in front of other people, and because of that, the skill ceiling has gone through the roof, making them just absolutely terrible for anybody that is a casual player, and these games need to be made for casual players. But Arc Raiders is a PvP game, but it doesn't feel like one. It feels like a game that is actively opening up as you're playing it. It doesn't feel like I'm being dropped into another anonymous multiplayer meat grinder. That's the thing that is so frustrating with Battlefield 6, is that they didn't realize any of this social stuff. They still don't see it even now. And these guys didn't bring back persisting lobbies. That's the backbone of Battlefield. That's what makes Battlefield Battlefield for a lot of people. And they just left it behind. You know, I've been watching the docu-series for Arc Raiders, the making of the game. And one of the things that really stood out to me was that this game, from the start, was supposed to be a PvE game. So that's the way that it was built. And it was the proximity chat, it was the events, it was all these different things that they had to bring players together to these big moments and things like that. It was the communication, it was the cooperation, all that stuff was there from the very start. So when they dropped PvP on top of it, well, it didn't collapse underneath it because they already had that solid social foundation, that solid social spine that the game needed, and I think that's the secret here. It's funny to me. This industry has been chasing these bigger and bigger audiences. How can we make our audiences even bigger? And a lot of it's been through mostly them trying to feign accessibility through means of let's make let's make boy games for girls and girl games for boys. None of that stuff matters. The best way to be able to grow this industry, to be able to grow your games, is to return to its roots. To remember why people play these games, what we get out of playing these games, not what you can squeeze from us when we play them. But the problem is that this industry has been so optimized for that purpose that I don't think these guys have any shot at ever chasing a success like this. I swear I'm going to end up doing a full video on this at some point. I already have it outlined. I have my thoughts on it because so much of this conversation has been hijacked by culture war noise more than anything else, social justice talking points, diversity checklists, personal ideologies being mistaken for creative direction. And what gets completely lost in all that process is what accessibility is actually supposed to mean. Originally, it was simple. Accessibility means ease of access, lowering the barriers so that people could approach the game without undermining what the game is itself, not flattening it, not diluting it, just creating more ways to get into it. Somewhere along the way, that definition got hijacked. Over the years, accessibility stopped being about the player experience and started being about profit margins and audience capture. Marketing teams got involved, executives got involved, and that term got twisted. into this blunt instrument used to chase audiences that are outside of the game's core rather than serving the people that are actually playing the game. Language change, censorship, duller narratives, lower difficulty, sanded down edges, games engineered to offend no one, say nothing, and stand for nothing. These androgynous, focus-tested products with no identity because identity might push somebody away. The fundamental mistake that a lot of these studios are making is that they focused on identity instead of accessibility through play. A game that's made for everyone is a game made for no one, but a game anybody can play is exactly that. It's a game anyone can play. That distinction matters, and almost everybody has lost sight of that, except for Embark Studios, because Arc Raiders executes on that distinction almost flawlessly. One of the game's biggest strengths, honestly, probably its biggest one, is that radically different types of players can exist in the same space. Every single raid has variety, every lobby feels different, and that diversity of playstyle, not identity, is what's keeping the game feeling fresh. At the highest level, it's coming down to aggression, players who want to cooperate and those who want to dominate, and Arc Raiders is now making that a core balance of their entire game. In an article from IGN written by Wesley Inpool titled "Arc Raiders Dev Confirms It Recently Added Aggression-Based Matchmaking, but It's Not a Full Science," Pool writes, Arc Raiders player versus environment versus player gameplay has resulted in a number of viral clips showing how friendly encounters can quickly devolve into a fight to the last. Yes, you can play solo or in parties of up to 3, working together as a team to progress through the game. However, other players are a constant threat. This has sparked a vociferous debate within the community about the etiquette that is formed in-game, with a retired pro gamer going viral for relentlessly killing casual Arc Raiders players. It turns out Arc Raiders will lean into your playstyle when it comes to matchmaking. This aggression-based matchmaking, however, is not an exact science. Patrick Soderlund, CEO of Embark Studios, told GamesBeat in a recent interview/playthrough of the game. Obviously, first it's skill-based, of course, Soderlund said of Arc Raiders matchmaking. Then you have solos, duos, and trios. And also, since a week ago or so, we introduced a system where we matchmake based on how prone you are to PvP or PvE. So if your preference is to do PvE and have less conflict with players, you'll get more matched up with similar players. Obviously, it's not a full science. I cannot stress how genius this is, and I'm really interested to see how this all works out. I'm sure it's not perfect, nothing ever is, but honestly, recently I've had no issue with any of the lobbies that I've been put into, and that's because the game is not trying to shove everybody into the same box. It's just paying attention to how you actually play and responding to that. It's moving with you instead of fighting you. And the most important part is nothing is locked in. This is not a this or that situation. A player that normally goes hard on PvP can just decide they want to start looting or messing around or fighting bots or whatever they want to do. A player that usually avoids conflict can suddenly feel that tension spike and decide that they want to go and start fighting other people. Those moments are going to happen naturally, and the game is not going to freak out when they do it. It's going to allow them to do whatever they want. This game is not going to feel like a script. It just feels like people. Intent changes, mood shift, situations escalate, cooperation turns into conflict, and then sometimes right back again. It's messy in the same way that real interactions are messy, and that's where these encounters really start to feel real instead of manufactured, unless, well, that's exactly what you're trying to aim for. Then I guess you could probably try to make the game feel that way if you just go down one single lane. This is real accessibility. The game stays exactly what it is. Nothing gets dulled down. Nothing gets flattened. You are not being forced down a narrow path or told how you're supposed to play. You decide. You do whatever you want. And that's why so many players lately have been pushing back against how AAA has been treating and talking about accessibility, because their version is not giving you a choice. You do not opt in. You just deal with it. What Embark is doing right now with Arc Raiders, it's the opposite. The game just adjusts to you. It respects what you're trying to do. It treats you like a person. And once you realize that, once you see that this game is built around players first and systems that are built around players first, it becomes really hard not to notice just how different everything else is by comparison. Over here we have Arc Raiders and Embark Studios that are spending their time building entirely new matchmaking systems, not to boost spending, not to pad engagement, but instead to just make the game a better experience for the people that are playing the game right now. That is what they chose to refine. That's where their money is going. That's where their effort is right now. Now, what is the rest of the industry working on? Well, Activision just renewed a patent designed to push microtransactions through matchmaking. I mean, that's great, right? Pairing less skilled players with highly skilled players that are decked out in microtransactions, deliberately reframing those cosmetics as the difference between winning and losing, giving players the ability to inspect skins through kill cams and plays of the game moments, all nudging them towards the store. Oh, and they got another really good one too. A patent that modifies gameplay and content based on what you have open on a second monitor. Totally normal stuff. Absolutely no way that could ever go sideways. None of this is complicated. It's all perspective and motivation. The games industry is split into two currents right now. One that is moving towards the players and one that is moving away from them. And a huge chunk of the AAA space is being optimized to be the most hostile, manipulative experience possible, where all the upside flows to the publisher and all the friction just lands on us players. For a long time, I wanted to believe that this entire thing, I just wanted to blame it all on executives. And yeah, these suits are always going to do what suits do, optimize the business, optimize for money, but the uncomfortable truth is that a lot of these developers are just going along with it. They have no spine. They're not pushing back at all. They're just cashing their check and moving on. And then we look at Arc Raiders, and it's a completely different story. This game was a $40 box price, an absurdly fair ask for what they delivered. A complete and cohesive game, free access to their Raider decks, which is essentially their battle passes, optional cosmetics that actually feel optional, cosmetics that you can earn by playing, a new map, new events, a winter event, free currency that they handed out during the holidays, and at no point has this game ever felt like it's standing there with its hands out. There have been no pop-ups, no constant reminders, no pressure. It's just a game that respects you. And the part that really messes with my head is that Embark is owned by Nexon, the same Nexon who got hit with a $9 million fine for one of the biggest loot box scams in the industry. The same company that got caught manipulating drop rates in MapleStory, pulling the carrot further away from players without telling them, and accidentally helped trigger the law that is now in place that requires these companies to disclose their drop rates. How the hell does that happen? How do we get one of the most ethically monetized games and one of the best games made in the industry from underneath one of the worst publishers in the industry? The only explanation that I've been able to come to is that these developers have real conviction, the kind that comes from a player-first design, not as a slogan, but as a line in the sand, because Arc Raiders doesn't really feel like a game that was optimized to extract value. It feels like a game that was willing to walk away if it couldn't be done right. How does that even happen? How do we have one of the best made games, one of the best bargains for a game, and also one of the most ethically monetized live service games coming out from the umbrella of one of the most notorious publishers in the entire industry? Either these guys are waking up and saying, hey, wait a minute, there might be money in well-made, well-monetized, fair games, or we have a publisher and a set of developers that just have a spine and just aren't putting up with any of their shit and demand respect and demand, well, freedom more than anything else. And seeing as these guys came from EA, I'm probably leaning on the latter when it comes to this one. I know these live service games can come and go, but man, I really want this game to stick around. I really want this game to succeed in a way that, honestly, I don't think there's a single other game that I've wanted to succeed as much as this one, outside of maybe Expedition 33 and Baldur's Gate 3. Okay, never mind. There's actually a long list of games that I like to see succeed, but this one as a live service game, I really want to see it stick, because I feel like both the players and the developers have struck pay dirt here. There's just so many great things on the player side. It's so well monetized. It's such a fair price. The way they designed it, I feel like the sky's the limit when it comes to content for a game like this. And it's one of the few games in the live service space, outside of maybe Warframe and I guess probably Guild Wars. A lot of my buddies really like Guild Wars. I'm going to have to try it at one point in time. But these guys really focus on the players they have. And that is a trend that has to catch on. I think it has to catch on. Looking at the way that a lot of these AAA games have been handling their live service, and not even just the AAA games, it's also just a lot of these live service games pretty much across the board. It's just not working. Whatever they're doing right now, how all their focus for the most part is pretty much just on monetization and extracting as much as they possibly can as fast as they can. I'm sorry, guys, it's not working. Battlefield, brother, what are you doing? How do you guys fumble that hard? It's been months now. Your menus are still a mess. If you're going to be Hulu, you need to put in a search function. I'm going to tell you that right now. They need to just go back to having old school menus. I don't know why these companies keep trying to force this. It makes no sense to me. But all the issues, the progression issues that they have with Battlefield, it's been months now. How have you guys not fixed any of that stuff? They're so slow to act. And 9 times out of 10, when a lot of these companies are making changes, they're not making the changes that players are asking for. They're doing something entirely different. The AI microtransaction thing just blows my mind with those guys too, because it's just like, you guys literally just saw that happen to Call of Duty. And you guys thought, we'll get away with it. What are you doing? It looked like garbage. Why would you want to? Nobody's going to buy that stuff. It works against you. It makes people not want to use your microtransactions or look at your shop if that's the kind of stuff you're selling. These companies, man, especially on the live service side, they got to get it together. Something has to happen because these games are just not hitting the numbers that they need to, and these guys are investing a serious amount of money and a lot of their future into some of these games. And I am very curious to see how much money these guys have been losing. Just looking at Call of Duty and Battlefield 6, looking at both of them, Battlefield 6, they were trying to say that that game was supposed to hit 100 million players. You're out of your mind on that one. That was before the game was even halfway decent. Even with it being halfway decent and also having a bunch of issues, it's still no way in hell. Are you kidding me? And Call of Duty, good Lord. The amount of money that they've been spending on those games over the years, you know that they probably put a similar amount into Black Ops 7, and that just got flushed down the toilet. Man, a lot of these companies have completely built themselves based on their name, on the name of their company and on the name of their games. And it's getting to the point now where your name is no longer going to sell the copies of your games. What are you going to do when that name doesn't sell? I think some of these guys are learning that lesson right now. Anyway, I'm just happy to see multiplayer games returning to the way that they should be. That's all I'm going to say. Thank you guys for watching the video. I've been sick, man. I can't even hear myself. So I hope that this came out well. I've been sick for like the last week or so. Thank you guys for watching. Just subscribe to the channel, comment down below, like the video, share the video. Follow me on Twitch, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Kick. Stay cool, stay righteous, stay safe. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.
Family, 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 family.